Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast, YouTube video interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist / secular / awesome community. This is episode number 182. I recorded this interview on February 21st, 2019. I was listening to music before the show and hit mute when Cecil and Tom showed up, so when I did the gong thingy live, well, no sound and fury signifying, well, you get it. Thanks to Patrick Horse for being on last week, and Nanocon tickets are on sale. Prices going up in March, so if you want to go, this is the best shot you'll get in the Southeast. March 23rd and 24th, people, and if you want to get to know Patrick better, check out my first interview with him, episode number 86. I thought a guy who talks to stuffed animals might be the most ridiculous. Try to explain what this podcast is, moment of the month, but no, I get to be excited to be the first person to see the new and improved Glory Hole Studios. If you've not heard of the origin story of Cognitive Dissonance podcast studio name, well, good thing I got that in the interview. When you go to see, say, Ringo Starr, you don't get excited to hear from his newest album. Well, maybe you do. So when it comes to a duo who have done more than 500 episodes of this show with a 4-year movie apprenticeship, well, you play some of the hits. They started the show in April of 2011, and that first episode is surprisingly listenable. What's great is that they are one of the few shows I listened to in my earliest atheist podcast listening years who haven't either disappeared or become terrible people. They were terrible people at the start. Actually, that's not even a fake selling point, because what you get here is what deep down matters to me in podcasting. Get the hosts talking about a subject that isn't the show. Are you still interested? You found yourself some good hosts. It's skeptical, it's political, and let's start the conversation. I said, who's that guy on the other side of the glory hole? It's Jesus.
That's what you do every one of our podcasts.
Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast, Cognitive Dissonance, and thank you for not wearing blackface on this video.
Oh, well, if I would have known it was an option.
I know.
Cecil, get my blackface kit.
I'll be right back.
Don't tell me that you don't have, like, somewhere in the studio. Come on.
Come on. We've got
That's shoe polish.
We've got
whatever.
several strap-ons. We've got a couple pocket pussies over there.
Actually, distressingly,
we've got some pocket pussies. We've got some lube over there too. So pocket pussy. We've got some lube. We've got a butt plug that vibrates.
this is
in the corner.
This is the
So
anal
did you
fantasy
want to
collection.
see this stuff, Zach? I mean, it seems like you asked. I don't want to.
You guys are ready. Wow. I mean,
busting this stuff out if you don't
you
want to.
know, there's some podcasts that you listen to,
Yeah.
and they do their ads, and you're like, I don't really think you guys are into, like, investing money or whatever. But you guys, I believe you when you do.
Oh yeah, we definitely we bought stock in Adam.
Is it demo time? When is demo time?
I think that's for the Patreons, right?
We don't have a macro lens, so
Micro.
whatever.
Well, yeah. Well, how are you doing tonight, Cecil and Tom? You're in the new and improved Glory Hole Studios.
And improved Glory Hole Studios, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, we're doing good.
We're doing good.
Yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah. We're happy to be on your show,
Yeah,
Zach.
thanks for having us, Zach.
Oh.
Well, here's a toast. I got a Bourbon County Stout in actual Goose Island glass, so I prepared.
I
Beer.
have a water, but if I pull my hair down, I can turn it into wine.
Oh. Nice.
You're very dressed up for tonight, but that's okay. I know how you do it. You guys are pros.
Suggest that maybe you're very dressed down
Yeah,
for tonight.
That's
so.
what I was going to say, but I
Okay.
just didn't want to bring it up.
Well, for me, you don't see what I'm wearing below this, so that's
My
perfect.
first time on your show.
Yeah, I mean, you can't
my-
see below the table. I'm Winnie the Poohing right
Yeah,
now.
my dickie's out. So.
I think that's just as it should be. I like to start the show with an out-of-context quote. Of course, with the two of you, it's kind of hard to just come up with one, but I'll give one each.
Amazing.
So for Tom, I'm lucky when I bring a cup of coffee to the table.
Nice.
And for Cecil, we're not fucking experts on pretty much everything.
That should be a shirt.
I like that.
And I don't know if that's from early on, because I did listen to the first episode of the show.
Oh,
What is the next episode of, what number is it?
We're at 458 is what we're
458
recording tonight.
458. So I went back
Monday it'll release.
I mean, that was something else. Like, you do research for some shows, and you talk to some people who have like 20 episodes, and it was like almost a heartbreaking moment when I'm like, oh yeah, I saw your first episode, and then like, oh no, we did this other show for 4 years before. I'm like, oh my gosh, really? So even though there's for like 12 years.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, just about 12 years. Yeah, in April it'll be 12 years. Yeah. Funny enough, when we switched out, we were doing Everyone's a Critic, and when we switched out from Everyone's a Critic and made the decision to start Cognitive Dissonance, a memory popped up in my feed 2 or 3 days ago.
Really?
Where we had the conversation, and it was one of the memories in my feed that just so happened to be there. So it took us about 2 months from the thought of it till to finally break it off.
Yeah.
But it was in April for both of those shows. Both of them started in April.
That's funny.
On April 1st.
Citation Needed started in April.
It did it really?
It did, because we announced it at ReasonCon.
That's right.
We dropped it at ReasonCon.
Wow.
I'm kind of scared of the show.
We keep having all these April babies. We
Jesus
must be
Christ.
really banging away in September. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it's what you do when you're not into football, I suppose. But tonight, as we mentioned, you've already demonstrated, and the poor people listening to this, you're not seeing, you're missing, well, I don't know if you're missing that much, honestly, but...
audio medium.
Yeah.
And there's a reason.
How did you two initially meet?
We met in college. So we both were member. Is member the right word? We both went to this dork club, this philosophy club. And we met at it. We didn't get along. We
didn't like each other for like first 4 years that we knew each other.
We were not friends. We were friendly.
Yeah, we were nice enough to each other, but we never hung out.
Yeah. We didn't hang out at all.
We both thought each other was a dick.
Yeah,
so.
we were both right.
Yeah, we were both right.
Yeah.
Turns out.
Neither one of us was wrong on that. And then actually we kind of started hanging out kind of through a mutual friend of ours. Funny enough, if I recall, like we were reading philosophy together.
Yeah, we were again.
And we kind of connected over
rolled
that.
back again into philosophy. We were reading The Prince. We read Kant.
Metaphysics and
a couple
morals.
of cunts reading
right.
Kant, and then we eventually became really close friends after that. And so
like all good friendships of early 20-something.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like read Kant together. And...
read Grounding of the Metaphysics and Morals together, and then the rest is history. Zach.
Whatever.
That.
You're a nerd.
Well, everybody knows the show Cognitive Dissonance, and Google knows, but it's a little confused. What is Everyone's a Critic?
So, a long time ago, Tom and I were working on each other's houses a lot. Like, both of us bought a house at the same time. And so Tom and I were traveling quite a bit. I'd travel to his house. We'd work on stuff. We'd very often go to like Home Depot or Menards or something. And so when we would do that, we would talk and chat. And I had just gotten into listening to podcasts. I was listening to several dozen of them at the time. Skeptic's Guide to the Universe was a big one. I think I turned Tom onto it.
Absolutely.
And I remember we were driving away one day from one of these shopping trips to buy like a fucking door or whatever. And I said to Tom, I said, we should probably try to do one of these. And Tom, a very agreeable man, always says yes to everything. So he was just like, yeah, we should totally do that. I could be like, hey, Tom, we're putting a patio at my house. He's like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Tom was super agreeable to everything. Yeah. So he would say so, like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, okay, cool. So within the next 2 months or so, I procured all the equipment. And then I said, you need to go out and buy a thing and buy a headset microphone. And he went to the store and he bought a headset microphone. And the rest is history. We recorded our first episode again, in April, a long time ago, 4 months after his first son was born.
Yep.
And we recorded on a really shitty, not so good schedule. That's what really was not very good about it, was we weren't on a good schedule and we weren't very good at what we were doing. We're still not good at what we're doing, but we were really not good at that.
We were aggressively bad at it. We had no vision for what the show should be. Podcasting wasn't that big a thing either. There weren't a lot of like good reference points. And I remember like Cecil called, was like, we're recording tonight. Yeah. And I was like, we're doing what again with the Who? And he's like, we're recording. And I was like, I guess I'll watch that movie we talked about. I think it was Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption
is the first movie that we recorded and that we reviewed.
Watched it.
Yeah. And I remember also like being, for the first maybe 20 or 30 episodes, it's not an exaggeration, Cecil would be like, all right, we're ready. 3, 2, 1, record. every time I was nervous, like we were gonna
Yeah.
go, like we were
Oh,
like
yeah.
live
Like
or
we were
some
live,
shit.
yeah, but I was
My
editing,
heart would
yeah.
race, like shit, we're live. Wow. And now I'm like, are we live? I should
Put on
stop
pants.
eating, put on pants. Like,
First few episodes of that show too, I edited out all the ums.
Oh, yeah.
Every single and ah and everything. I was meticulous. I worked for hours and hours and hours, and then I realized nobody's gonna listen to this. I was like,
you did all that for like three people. The audience
who
is like,
fucking
Yeah.
cares?
Right.
And so I stopped doing it. And for a while, I would say maybe 3 years, about 3 years, we had about 100 listeners.
Yeah. Right.
For about 3 years. And we just that was what we did. We would release it to about 120 people, and we had some really dedicated people that really enjoyed the show.
People that still listen to Cognitive Dissonance now, like there's a fair number of them, and we've met some of these people.
And so it was just like but it was really neat to think, here I am in an auditorium of about 100 people, and they're listening to me, and it was a really cool feeling. And I really enjoyed putting on that show. Yeah. And we decided to split off because the show, like Tom said, there really wasn't an organizing feature. It was like we reviewed movies, but then we also really were very passionate about all kinds of skepticism and politics. And so we would just insert that into the show. We just do it. We're just like, well, let's just fucking record that too. And so there was all these different segments. And
it was like 3 hour long session, like recordings. And so eventually Cecil was like, this is 2 shows.
Yeah.
And then we thought for sure that the show that was going to do better was the movie review.
Yeah, once it
was unfettered from our personal opinions, the movie review show would take off, and literally the opposite thing happened.
Opposite thing happened. So,
well, you told me before we started recording that you got sick of like watching movies and doing movie reviews, but you've been doing Cognitive Dissonance twice as long. You're doing it 8 years.
Well, now
what keeps it fresh, or what keeps it interesting that you're able to keep doing this? I mean, twice a week, good solid hour and a half shows at least. I mean, that's a lot of, you got to really be dedicated.
Well, I think what will keep it fresh is we took out all the things that we weren't passionate about. Yeah. So we weren't really passionate about the movies. The reason why we chose the movies was because we figured we needed a thing to organize our thoughts around, to have a conversation about. Like, so Tom and I, we would always have conversations about skepticism, and we would always have conversations about politics. Just Tom and I would just talk about stuff like that all the time.
Because we give a shit about it.
Because we cared about it.
Yeah.
But what we thought was, nobody's going to care about what we have to say about that stuff. Let's just find something
people like
else that people are be interested in. And so we decided to do it on movies. And it turns out, if you do that enough about movies and you don't care so much about movies, and you're doing criticism of movies start to suck. They just start to suck.
I didn't watch movies for pleasure for years.
Yeah, me
afterwards.
either.
I just
2 or 3
years.
years.
Be like, do you want to watch a movie? I didn't go to a movie in the theater. Oh my God. Longer than that. I mean, I probably didn't go for 5 years after we did that show.
Oh, wow.
I didn't go to a movie theater and pay money to see a movie at least 5-6 years afterwards. The idea of watching a movie was just a horror. Just a horror. Yeah. But now I love going to the movies. I went to the movies 2 nights ago. So I'm over it. And Brian Fisher, I mean, he's fucking amazing. So he's always worth talking about.
National treasure.
I'm not going to lie. Like, I do miss Alex Jones.
Well, is there a story behind the glory hole that ensures nobody here gets divorced?
You want me to tell it?
Yeah.
So we started getting voicemails from our show. We'd get a bunch of different voicemails, and we play them at the beginning of the show. And we've been doing this for a very long time. We had a voicemail number back when we were doing
Everyone's a Critic.
Everyone's a Critic.
Yeah.
So we had a voicemail number back then. And so we used the voicemail again. We got a new voicemail number for this. We got the doubt voicemail.
Yep.
And so we were super excited about it, and we started getting voicemails. And so people, we separate each one of our pieces of our show. We'll separate a piece of our show with a bumper, what we call a bumper. And so sometimes there'll be a crazy person talking or whatever. And it turns out that somebody called in and sang a little jingle. And the jingle was, "Who's that guy on the other side of the glory hole?" And then he says, "It's Jesus" at the end of it. And it was really funny. We thought it was hilarious. And someone said, "You should use that as a bumper." And so we started using it as a bumper to introduce like sex stuff. Yeah. Mostly it was to introduce anything that had to do with sex and priests and things like that. And there's
I still sing that as foreplay.
A lot of
it's
it.
Just,
yeah. And so we wound up taking that, and then someone called in or sent a message and said, "You know how Rush Limbaugh says ditto. Everybody calls in and says ditto. And what ditto means is what the last guy said, because they always praise Rush. They're like, Rush, I listen to your show. I love your show. And then the next person will call and be like, ditto what that guy said. Also, I hate Bill Clinton. And so then they do it. Like everyone will call in and say ditto. Well, in this case, everyone started calling in and saying glory hole, because someone was like, you should just change it to glory hole. Your ditto should be glory hole. And so glory hole just means love the show. And so glory hole has become a greeting for the atheist. I feel like that's something we've given to the atheist community is glory hole. People leave it. I'll see it on other people's iTunes reviews.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, they're using glory hole. That's amazing. It wasn't really us. We just helped popularize it, but we're part of it.
There's a point in your life where you open up your wallet and you have a credit card that says Glory Hole Studios, and you realize, and you've got a box full of sex toys in your studio, and you think, my life is on the right path. I have made some good decisions.
Well,
I don't believe what I'm saying.
That's not true. That's definitively not true.
Now, a lot of shows go through a lot of changes, but you've had the same intro outro like the entire time. So where is your welcome mat?
Hold on a second. I'll be right back.
Go grab the welcome mat. Yeah. It's
At what point did people say, hey, I want a welcome mat? I mean, talk about, there you go.
There it is. There it is.
First ever welcome mat on the camera and first ever other stuff.
That was beautiful. You're a little jealous right now.
He's like, I'm going to stump him. No,
Yeah.
no. Straight on the wall. We got it. We're good.
Now, the most important question of the night is, what exactly does Tom do?
What, like for a living? What do I, or for the show?
On the show.
Well, I make hilarious comments and insightful commentary, and I look good doing it. That's what I do. I'm on the show.
Yeah, Tom's
I'm on the show.
Tom's here.
Cecil certainly does the vast majority of the work related to the show. I find the stories that we cover every week, and then I record the show, and that's the bulk of my contribution, for sure. Yeah,
and we have an Ian now who does a lot of work too.
Yeah, Ian does a lot of stuff for us, and Cecil does all the technical stuff, all the editing stuff. I don't touch any of that.
I wouldn't let Tom touch
No.
that.
That's just.
I don't even let Ian touch that.
Yeah, that's also it's your area of expertise.
It's what I like to do,
and
it's what I like to do. I like to edit, so I wouldn't want someone else to touch it. But yeah.
Now, once you ditched the movie part, when did you get to the point where you got so popular where you decided, hey, let's do a road trip and do a live show?
Oh, we got asked to do a live show. We're not crazy about live shows.
We did our first live show in Manchester.
Manchester was our first live show.
Yeah.
That was fine. But, live shows are not, because Cognitive Dissonance isn't really a live. I mean, it's okay live, but it's not the same thing.
Well, there's no script. So maybe it's going to hit, maybe it's not. So Cognitive Dissonance has only done a couple of live shows. Yeah. We did the live show in Manchester entirely by accident. So our intention was to go to QED because QED sounded like a lot of fun and we wanted to go. And I think that's something maybe people don't know about us is when we attend events, with the only exception being Skepticon in Australia. Every event we've ever attended, we attended as attendees, meaning we bought a ticket and we just went because we thought it would be a fun thing to do. When we told the organizers of QED that we were buying tickets, we had already purchased them and we were looking forward to going, and we hoped to meet them. That was Marsh and Andy, who we've talked to for years on the show. They asked us if we'd be so kind to do a live show in their podcast room. And we said, sure, what the hell? And that was the first time that we did one. We've only ever done one other live Cognitive Dissonance, and that was at Skepticon in Australia. And that was an invitation that we received. We've done Citation Needed.
Yeah. In Chicago.
And we did Citation Needed in Australia.
Live. And those are excellent shows because they're scripted. So
those port.
Those are easy to do live. But the Cog Dis is a difficult show to do live. It's okay to do here, but it's difficult in front of a live studio, in front of an audience. If there's an audience there, it's not it's just not it doesn't really translate as well.
It's not as organic.
Yeah. And it's hard because, you know, the good stuff that we do is like video. Like we have like a video up on the screen. When we're doing a live thing,
Can't do it.
It sounds great and looks great now, but it's very difficult to do the moving parts to get that going at a conference is very difficult. So
for sure. Yeah. All the stuff that we attend, we just attend. We don't go to, we've never like had somebody buy our ticket, with the exception of Skepticon in Australia.
Yeah,
we just go as attendees and we walk around and we meet people because we want to meet them.
Yeah.
Or we attend because it's fun to attend.
ReasonCon, we were there a couple times.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything there. We just hung out. So.
Skepticon, Missouri, same thing.
Oh, yeah, that's
American
right.
Atheist in Oklahoma.
Yep.
Yeah. Just go.
Is it strange for you because you go to his studio and you do a show, but you're not directly interacting with people? Is it strange to be kind of podcast and atheist famous, and when you go to conferences, people are coming up to you who you've never seen before, never met?
It's sometimes that's a little weird because I don't feel like we do anything special. Yeah. It's just two buddies talking, so I don't feel like anything we do is. I mean, I think sometimes we can blunder into being insightful, and I think sometimes we make each other laugh, so I know we can be funny, but I just don't think that there's a much that we do that makes us unique. We're just like everybody else. We're just also atheists who are just also have different jobs and just also are very passionate about this particular topic. So when we go to these places and someone will say something like, "Your podcast helped me through a difficult time," it's hard for me to process that because I'm always like, wow. Well, but then I step back and I realize they are listening to a conversation between two very close friends. Like Tom and I we've been friends for 20 plus years. And so we have very intimate conversations on the podcast all the time. And people feel like that gives them community. And sometimes they come from places where they can't talk about this stuff. They just can't have a conversation about how it sucks that they're trying to take away abortion in their state. Yeah. They can't have that conversation with their family. They can't have that conversation with friends. They're just stuck thinking it and just worrying about it. And they realize that that's a release for them. And so it's taken me a while to realize that it's helpful to people, but it's something that I every time I hear, I cherish.
Yeah. I think I want to touch on one of the things that you said that I think is interesting is that, there's a sense that people have that have listened to, we've probably put out 600 hours at least of tape at this point. Yeah. And there's some people have listened to all of it and they know us, like they know things about us. And so sometimes there's this kind of one-way connection that you have to catch up to. Like Cecil and I have to catch up to a relationship that we have been a part of, but didn't know about for a long time.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm always amused by it. It's not unpleasant at all. But every now and again, it's like, how do you know that about me? Oh, yeah. Because I think like when we're doing the show, at least for me, it's like I'm doing the show with my buddy. I don't think about the audience too much. It doesn't occur to me that like, I don't think about who's out there listening or what they know about me or what they don't know. Like, I just want to do something fun on a Thursday night. Yeah. And that's really what I'm driving to do.
Yeah. I'm not playing a character.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you have special plans for episode number 500, which is coming up?
We hadn't thought about it. We're kicking around ideas, but we're not quite sure. Maybe we'll do an episode live stream, maybe fly a couple people in, have a good live stream, actual live stream experience.
We got probably 6 months or so, 6-8 months before we hit that.
Have to plan.
So we'll plan it maybe 5.5
minutes
before. Yeah. That sounds good. Yeah. Zach, what are you doing? You got plans in about 6 months?
Yeah.
If I'm still doing a show, sure. So what is Vulgarity for Charity?
Vulgarity for Charity is the Puzzle Guys. A couple of years back, they asked us to be a part of their so this is their thing, by the way. Vulgarity for Charity, they asked us to be a part of it a couple of years ago. They said, look, we're going to try to raise some money. You can roast people. We'd love for you guys to play with us. We'll write some roasts. We'll see if we can't raise some money. We raised far more the first year than we thought we would.
Sure.
We did it again this year.
$25K the first year.
$25,000 the first year. And we were flabbergasted.
We were floating on air.
By that amount. And this year, $122,000 and change was raised.
Yeah. With a $50,000 bonus from one of their donors.
Mhm.
So 70, technically 70 for the atheist
70,
audience.
70 came from us, and then
70 from the
$50,000
atheist
match.
audience,
Yeah. So, but the drive in total, was $122,000, and I was just floored by it. And basically, like, you donate some money, there's a floor, and give us some information. We'll roast anyone you want, and we could not believe the response. I mean, I think we were just incredibly humbled by it.
Blown away.
We're still writing it.
Yeah, we're still doing it. Yeah,
it was a November charity drive, and there was hundreds of responses. So there's hundreds of roasts to write.
Yeah, there was like 500, almost 400 or 500 of them. So it's just an immense amount of writing that has to be done. And so there's no way you can just sit down and record all of them.
No,
it would be 12 hours worth. Yeah. So but it gives to an amazing charity, the charity that we've done it 2 times with them for. And I want to expressly, say that this is not our idea. Was never, and I know you said that was a puzzle, guys, but it's not our idea. It was we just were lucky enough to be asked to play along, but it was their idea. They came up with it in the first year. They did something completely different, and they raised a bunch of money for a different charity, and then they asked us to come on to see if we could sort of join forces. And when we did, we had a great response. And then we did it again, and it was even bigger response. So we really enjoyed it. But the charity that we did it for 2 years is Modest Needs, and Modest Needs is an amazing charity. They take people who are on the verge of poverty. Basically, they're going to miss a payment, a necessary payment in their life. So they're behind on their car payments, or their heat's going to be turned off, their electricity is going to go out, and they step in, collect money Kickstarter style, and then bypass the person who's asking for it and give it directly to the people who are looking for those funds. So if it's the electric company, they give that money directly to the electric company. The person, there's no chance that this person is a fake homeless person, like that one guy who did that Kickstarter. And it's a great charity, and we have had I can't tell you how great it is to talk to the owner of that, the guy who runs that charity, the person who started it, the founder, and now their presiding officer. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah, Keith is one of those people that, like, you hear his story, you talk to him for a few minutes. If you walk away from that uninspired, you cannot be inspired. Like, he's a person that you're like, I'm not that good, and I will never be that good. I am lucky to be in proximity to people that are that good. Right. He's an awesome human being. So that was a fun, and it's a ton of fun. Let's be honest, the roasts are a blast.
They're fun.
The people seem to really enjoy them. Yeah. They're fun for us to write and record. And Vulgarity for Charity is really the coalescing feature that helped us realize that we needed to start Citation Needed. Yeah. Because we just enjoyed doing that project.
Yeah, those guys,
we need to work with these guys.
Yeah, they're so much fun to work with that we just decided we were walking out of here one night. We were walking out of the studio one night after a Vulgarity for Charity. And I turned to Tom and I said, we've got to do something with them. We've got to figure out a way to work with them. So.
And again, I'm generally agreeable.
Tom was just like, sure, whatever. Yeah, all right. Yeah, I got an extra 15 hours of my week that I wasn't using.
Well, what will be over first, the Trump presidency, or are you doing the roasts for this year's Vulgarity for Charity?
Oh my God!
Mueller report soon, so who knows? Who knows?
I don't know. Coin flip. Is there anything that brings the guy down at this point? Does it I think the House would impeach him. I don't think the Senate will. impeach him.
They wouldn't.
I think he could show up to work fucking naked and covered in Russian urine and be like, yeah, all right. Yeah,
actually sounds like a good weekend. If I'm being honest. We might have some Russian urine in that box behind you.
Probably do.
They sell that at Adam and Eve. Gloria, check out.
Well, what can you? I know you're doing a live stream like tonight, but can you do a preview? Like what is new and improved in the Glory Hole Studios? I mean, I'm wearing a condom and Depends, so I'm ready.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we just had a brand new setup the last time, like in the last couple months. We invested some money from the show into a video camera system, and the studio used to be a lot like there used to be these partitions in here because we were really worried about our sound reflection off the walls. So we were really worried about it, and we wound up taking like half the studio. We basically cut it in half, and so the camera shots were real close, and it didn't look very good. And so what we decided to do was open it all up. So Ian came to town, and we worked on it for about 30 hours. And we basically rearranged the whole thing, rearranged everything on the wall. And we wound up buying a brand new monitor for the front so we could look off of it. And then That's basically the brand new studio. I mean, but it was a lot of work.
Lights, camera, and action.
Yeah, we put in a lot of lights and camera, and so it turns out good. Yeah, we like it. We think tonight's going to be the real unveil, but we are unveiling it. Your viewers are getting a preview right now.
That's right. We feel special, don't we? Well, what made you decide to recently cover the criminal justice system other than needing to fill some vacation time?
Well, I will say this. Like Cecil and I, we get together in the studio every Thursday. And when we get together, we order some food and we bullshit with each other about the week. And a lot of times we have, pretty serious conversations that don't make it into the show about whatever it is we're thinking about. And we've both been kind of watching documentaries. The true crime documentary thing is a big deal right now. It's kind of a cultural phenomenon. We're not exempt from that in any way. And we were having conversations about the criminal justice system just off the air, just the two of us. And we have a lot of like pretty significant or serious conversations that live off air. And we've always been a little hesitant to bring those to the show. The show's had kind of the same format for a long time. We've been hesitant to bring more serious issues into the show. But in the last year or so, we've decided to sort of venture out and to say, all right, there's some shit we care about. Yeah. And we're lucky enough to have an audience, and we're lucky enough to have an opportunity to speak. So let's take the things that we care about that maybe we're not going to make as many dick jokes about, and let's see if the audience is interested in hearing our thoughts on them. And so far, the reception's been good.
Yeah.
So it's been fun.
We've done a couple of them.
Yeah.
And the ones that we've done, people seem to enjoy them. But we still do get emails from people after they're finished, and they'll say, look, I come to you guys for dick jokes and for for make me laugh. Oh, I want you to make me laugh. I don't want you to
dance,
tell me,
monkey.
I don't want you. What I don't want you to do is depress me.
Right.
And so we did get a couple of messages like that, but we also got a resounding number of people that said, "Wow, that was really awesome. It was a great conversation. It was really fun to listen to." And at the end of it, nothing's really resolved, but we did have a good conversation. And
so, I've noticed we didn't fix any of those problems.
Any of it, turns out.
I was very surprised.
That making a murder guy's still behind bars, Tom.
But we said he shouldn't be. And we said it out loud.
I know.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
What is the point of this?
I quit the podcast.
Well, since you've done this show for like 8 years, you've outlasted some serious personalities that you talked about a lot. Like Glenn Beck and Bill O'Reilly don't have those shows anymore. Are there any more personalities who are still active that you would really miss if their show disappeared?
I already miss Alex Jones.
Alex Jones used to be so much of a bigger portion of our show.
I miss him.
He's not anymore.
I kind of want to hire him. Like I'm only like kidding a little bit. Like I would hire him just to have that voice and come on. I loved him.
Oh, yeah.
I loved him. I know we were covering him like every week for a little while.
And he was crazy.
He would say the craziest. And
so
now
crazy.
He's just got his own little fringy site that nobody goes
to.
Pays
attention to.
Yeah. He's not interesting.
Yeah.
I miss Liz Crokin. She's not around
as much yet.
I don't know if she lost her head.
I think the problem is that she can't start the video as well.
She's mashing
it with a whole paw instead of just
a paw. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but then new favorites will enter the scene, like that Chris McDonald guy who I think died about 10 years ago. Berenstein. Yeah. So there's
a couple. Yeah, they cycle.
Yeah, there's no end of crazy. Yeah. But like some of the big guys.
You're right, because we did Glenn Beck
all the time
for a long time. Yeah. We didn't really play with Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly didn't have a lot of clips that I recall. No. But it was definitely Glenn Beck was crazy enough where we would pick him up.
What happened to him?
He started the Blaze and also started. He's on the internet now rather than on because he just. I think he had like a meltdown on Fox, and they were just
I remember that. Yeah. So is he just not a thing anymore? Well, I never see him.
He's got his own weird network. So just like Alex Jones,
nobody's watching.
Watching it, or those people that are watching it. It's like those are like your diehards. So.
Yeah. We haven't covered in a long time either is the bucket guy.
Baker, that's right.
Jim Baker has not made an appearance on Cognitive Dissonance in a while.
He hasn't been.
I should go poke around to find him.
That guy's great. His crazy wife. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you do your show and you've had this, you kind of have a pattern to it and you kind of just show up and talk. What is the difference between that and like Citation Needed, where it seems way more scripted. And the fact that there are like 5 of you has to be a lot of traffic cop going on.
Well, so when we record Citation Needed, we're all in different locations.
Yeah.
So nobody is recording with anyone else. So Tom records that one from home. I record it from this studio, and everybody else records from their own space. And then we get on a conference, and then we record individual streams, and I mix it all in post. But so the good thing about that is that there is no need for a traffic cop. We do that all in post. So any traffic cop stuff, we don't need to do it. We don't need to regulate ourselves. We don't really have to do any of that work while we're recording. And so we do have the option of veering away from the script. And Tom and I, for many, like at this point, almost 500 episodes, have not had a script for Cog Dis. So we veer off into weird territory a lot.
Yeah.
And we drag those guys with us sometimes because they have a lot of scripted shows.
Right.
And the amount of editing that you do on that show is still very intense because it's all the editing that you're doing via writing ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And then it's editing that you're doing in post afterwards. So it's still it's an intense amount of editing on both ends of the spectrum. But we really love the product. We think the product is, and that's the thing is like, Citation Need is one of those things that, and Cog Dis is a very similar thing. And I don't know if other people feel this way when they produce stuff. I don't care if people really like it. I'm tickled that they do.
Yeah.
But
that's not the reason
stuff
to do it.
that I do, I really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So like when we sit down and we record a Citation Needed, sometimes my cheeks hurt from laughing so hard because the jokes are so good and the back and forth is so much fun. So I love to do it. So I would never trade it. I would never want to stop doing it. I think it's great.
We podcasted for, God, I don't know. I mean, like we don't do it for the money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we just do it because it's fun to do. We've done it for years. We did it. I mean, when Patreon first came out, remember, we had conversations about whether it was even ethical to accept money for the show. Like, we wrestled with that idea. So, I mean, we just do it because it's fun to do.
Yeah.
And I do Citation Needed because it's fun to do. If it wasn't fun, I would 100% stop doing it. Yeah. It's just a joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whether you like it or not, you get to be part of this kind of atheist community for the better or worse. So what aspects of the atheist community are worth discussing and which one should be just thrown into a volcano?
I think the atheist community is generous. I think they've proven that to us.
Yeah.
Every time that we have reached out into our listenership and asked them to, make a change or to offer something, the generosity of the community has been overwhelming. And I don't say that with hyperbole. It's been overwhelming. The last Vulgarity for Charity, I think, is just, it's objectively true. It's an amazing turnout of just raw generosity. It's hard to call the atheist movement a thing. Like, and I don't say that to dodge the question, but like, what the hell does that even mean? And you've got an online community, but you don't have just one. You don't have a movement that's like coalesced around anything. The atheist community is just comprised of dozens of subgroups and smaller communities and, little families of people mostly that exist online that get together a handful of times a year, maybe at conferences or maybe never physically in person. The parts of it that are worth keeping are the parts that make people happy.
Yeah. Like
the parts of it that are, and again, I'm not dodging. Like the parts of it that are worth keeping are the parts that bring like joy and fulfillment to the people's lives that are a part of those pieces. The parts that get thrown into a fucking volcano are the fucking mean-spirited, money-grubbing, misogynist bullshit. All of that is just awful. It's also incredibly transparent to anybody who's looking at it. I think anything that's deeply agenda-driven, as far as I'm concerned, can go fuck itself. But that's mostly because I don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I don't know that that's necessarily true for everybody.
I think the atheist movement itself, there's another show that I really enjoy called Skeptics with a K. And one of the guys has said many times, and I've heard him say it many times, basically says, look, atheism doesn't mean skepticism. People try to, they conflate the two, but it's not the same thing. Atheism just means belief in no God. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they couldn't believe that that aliens delivered us to this world, or that some kind of magic create. I mean, it just means that
Doesn't make you more rational.
Yeah, it doesn't make you more rational. No. And it's funny because we will hit people's sacred cows on our show.
Yeah.
We've lost anti-vaxxers on our show. They've been like, oh, well, you don't know half the stuff about vaccines. And I'm just like, go away. We don't need to talk. I don't have to have a conversation with you. Go away.
Right.
And so you shed people who have these sacred cows. They'll have them throughout. And so you'll just see them sort of falling off. They'll jump off like a fucking flea off a dog's back when it goes into water. and I say good. Yeah. I think good organizing features are skepticism. I think has a good organizing feature to it, and humanism is another thing that has a good organizing feature to it. Humanism, I think, is the one thing that if we want to play with morality and we want to be humanists, that's a great thing to organize around, and it's a good thing that draws people together, in a big group. I would be behind that 100% more than I would an atheist, whatever.
When atheists behave as humanists, I'm interested in the humanism. Atheism, I think, is a settled question for a lot of people very quickly, right? Like, atheism is I almost want to say, like, atheism is a transitional, right? Where for many people, they grow up and they have a religious faith, they have a certain dogma, they go through a process of shedding that dogma and shedding that faith. There's shows and books and there's almost an established canon on how to do this at this point. People go through that, and then that's it. At the end of that, that question becomes very quickly boring, to be blunt.
Sure.
How many times are you going to watch a debate with, Matt Dillahunty? He's great, but I don't watch any of his debates anymore because that question's settled for me. I don't have any question on that question. So what people have done is they said, okay, I'm an atheist, now what? And if there's something to organize this, it's around the now what. And as Cecil mentioned, if now what is, well, how do I find ethics?
Yeah.
And I find them through humanism. And what you really have is humanism.
Yeah.
And that's separate from atheism.
Yeah. And you don't want to organize around, I don't like girls.
Right. Yeah.
And
like,
I don't want to hang out with other people who don't like
well,
how many people can we rate?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. You can't
go away. What are we, Catholic?
Zero. Yeah,
like,
zero. We have a zero tolerance policy on rape, it turns out. Yeah.
Well, we should.
Well,
yeah,
that's fair.
I mean, if there are 40,000 denominations of Christianity and yet they seem to get united over political things, and maybe we can figure it out and go, oh, here's where we disagree, and we can, disperse where we have to. But, it's still kind of a growing community. So you two really get along very well. Are there topics that cause, disagreements between you two?
There have been some in the past, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Can you?
No, I mean, we're close on most of the major issues, right?
Yeah.
So I can't think of anything where we're far apart.
Yeah, we're never to the point where it's like, I'm like, no, we shouldn't tax billionaires, and Tom's like, no, you should tax them. Like, I don't think that we'd have ever. No,
it's not.
So it's never anything like that. It's always little stuff.
And I think at this point, over the course of 23 years, like I don't want to speak for Cecil, but if Cecil and I disagree, I'm trying to find out if I'm wrong. I'm not trying to defend if I'm right. Cecil actually, very early on in my friendship with him, I learned that from Cecil. I used to dig my heels in, and I would argue with this idea of winning. And I think now when we are apart on things, it's like, well, I really want to understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I might still disagree, but
sure. Why is that? Yeah, we
tend to find some place in the middle where we meet.
Sure.
Or at least understand each other.
Yeah.
I think we're both pro-choice, but we come at it from different angles.
Yeah, we do come at it. That is something. And I think that I'm a little less pro-choice than you are.
Yeah.
But not by much.
I'm pro-infanticide.
Yeah, I mean, Tom is just like, throw it in the air and hit it with a tennis racket.
I think until middle school, you should be able to kill your kids.
I'll be perfectly honest. I think there's a tiny window where you shouldn't, but the rest of the time you should.
Yeah. I think at the end of middle school too. Like,
I'm okay with all the way up through young adulthood.
The day before 8th grade graduation, I don't think it counts.
If you can't buy stamps to vote, I think you should get. It's just it's just me.
So there's some things will arrive often at the same conclusion from a different thought process.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think of
I don't
far
think
apart.
there's nothing really. I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I tried my best. I couldn't get you two to break up.
Yeah.
Well, now I try to end the show by asking about a special skill or a talent, but I think I'm just going to ask individual questions of each of you to finish. So, Tom, what was your experience like to get kicked out of the Mythicist Milwaukee after party in, I think, 2017?
That was a pleasure. I actually had a good time that night. So my wife Haley and I were up in Wisconsin, and we were attending this like lights in the sky event. Like you light these paper lanterns and then they fly in the sky, and it was really cool. And it was the same night as the Mythicist Milwaukee thing, and we didn't go. But we were texting with Thomas, and I was asking him how his debate went, and he wasn't feeling real jazzed about the results. He was a little bummed about it. And it was about 45 minutes or an hour from where we were that night. So I was like, well, why don't we drive over there? We'll grab a drink with Thomas. We'll kibitz with him. So we drove over and we found him, and they were I want to be very clear. I didn't buy a ticket. I just showed up, and I was intending to buy a ticket at the door. They were extraordinarily kind and welcoming. They let us in. They said, come on in. And people were very kind. And Thomas and I were talking, and I kind of got the lay of the land, and I saw Sargon. And I don't like Sargon. I think he's a bad person. Like, I want to be very clear about that. I don't want to mince words. I think Sargon is a bad person. I think he is mean for the joy of his cruelty. And I think he monetizes that cruelty to other mean-spirited people. And I take issue with that. I think that's a shitty, unethical way to behave. And I saw him, and somebody said something like, put their arm around or clapped him on the back and said, this is the man who will save Western civilization for us. And I was maybe 10 feet away. And I made some comment which called that into stark relief, I think. I don't remember specifically what I said. But I said it loudly and unequivocally and locked eyes with him when I said it. And he said, who are you? And I said, well, let me meet you. And I went over and shook his hand. And then he and I disagreed vociferously on every topic possible. And it was weird because it was only words. It never got physical at all. I don't remember cursing at him. I don't think that I did. I know that I didn't like call names or anything like that. I was loud, but I'm just a loud person. And they called the police. At one point, he walked into me, shoulder checked me to get past me. I didn't move. And they called the cops, and the cops escorted me away.
What's the first time that ever happened to you?
For that kind of thing? Yeah. I've never been
escorted
by the police away from a place for being loud.
That's a weird.
Yeah. It was weird because there was nothing happening.
I think people were uncomfortable. If you watch that video, it's uncomfortable.
Oh, it's deeply uncomfortable.
I don't know I think that's it. So.
I don't think the police often get involved with discomfort.
Yeah,
but
right.
But,
and their deal.
The organizers didn't ask me to leave, They didn't say, hey, calm down.
Oh, that's true, right? Yeah.
Would you leave? Yeah. Or they didn't intercede in any way that would have led me to believe that
what your
conversation was deeply unwelcome at an event.
Yeah.
They just asked the police, and then I just left. Like I was like, all right,
got the police.
That's fine. I didn't intend to be here.
Sure.
And so we left, and it was. I mean, to be honest, it was kind of funny. I thought the whole thing was a little funny because Sargon's whole thing is like, well, like don't get offended by words. Words can't hurt us, right? Like I can say whatever evil, mean-spirited shit I want, and if you don't like it, you can just leave. And I did find it amusing that evidently.
Well, he left.
I could just leave.
Well, he left the conversation.
He did.
He left. You said you're like, well, if you don't like it, you could just leave, and he did.
He did.
He did. He pieced out of
that.
But
then he couldn't help himself.
Couldn't help
back.
It. Yeah.
So he turned back.
It was good. It was pretty good. You got him.
I did.
I got him.
Yeah. That was a fun night.
Yeah, it's an interesting video to watch. I just figured because the video that it's on YouTube is kind of from a fan of his, so it's not exactly. I would call it even-handed. But a question for Cecil: what is the SCA?
SCA is Society for Creative Anachronism. It's a medieval recreation society, and they have groups all over the United States, and in fact all over the world. I know people that I've met from Australia, from the UK. I've met tons of people from all over the world, and they just get together and hang out and dress in old timey stuff, and it's like a Ren fair in a lot of ways. I don't normally participate in a lot of that stuff. What I normally do in there is I fence. I found it years ago. They fence. They do a thing called Western martial arts, where you use a sword simulator and you fight. It's a lot like looks like a real sword. It feels like a real sword. It's made out of steel. It's just dull, and it has a tip on the end of it. And they weigh a couple pounds. They're not like an épée or a foil. And I've been playing for 25 years now, and I really enjoy it. I met a ton of people, and I love it. I love the people I hang out with, and it's a really good time. It's actually a lot of fun. And like I said, I've made almost lifelong friendships, long time friendships. And the people are, we're all just kind of nerds, and we have a good time. We just have a nerdish good time. It's a lot of fun. Check it out. It's SCA.org, and you'll find a group by you anywhere in the United States. You can find a group near you.
Great. We'll include all the links. And speaking of that, it's about time to call it a night. So first of all, thanks for being on. It's great to kind of initiate the new Glory Hole Studios, but tell everybody where they can find you if there's like a few people out there who don't know who you are.
Well, you can go to dissonancepod.com and find Cognitive Dissonance, or you can go to citationpod.com and you can find Citation Needed. All the links to all our social and all that other stuff are on both of those websites. So citationpod.com or dissonancepod.com.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Cecil and Tom, for being on tonight.
Thanks for having
so
us.
much.
It was
Really
a lot of
appreciate
fun.
This was great.
Good time was had by all.
So let me explain something. Deep dish pizza is not only not better than New York pizza, it's not pizza.
Live read. Are you tired of the Jussie Smollett story? I guess I'm not, and obviously the National Review isn't. Any reporter who's glommed into the fake center, desperately trying to find cases of fake attacks by MAGA people, has written this thing to death. Can, quote-unquote, both sides be wrong? Well, if you want to listen to the latest Serious Inquiries only Thomas Smith covers it, then check it out. But if you need a laugh, well, how about the latest Citation Needed? The guys make as many blackface jokes as are legally allowed while discussing Ida B. Wells. I think it's worth your time. So if you want to support this show, first go to iTunes, rate the show 5 stars, be my new best friend, or you could be like Bobby, Hugh, Tehuti, Larry, Daryl, and the other Daryl, and go to patreon.com/Zachrilege, Zachrilege. Follow me on Twitter, like the Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook, and send all mail to zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. Thank you to Tom and Cecil for being on tonight. Next week, I have to find a guest, so that should be fun. Until then, let's continue the conversation, and glory hole, motherfuckers.